Namaste, yogis. This is Adrienne.
And Mia.
Welcome to How Yoga Changed My Life, a podcast. We are officially in 2024. Today is January 1st. It is a brand new year, and we are super excited to start season 2 of our podcast.
Woo, woo, woo.
We made it almost a full year. So February, it'll be a full year of podcasting. We are in 63 countries now. We are just loving it. It's been so much fun. And we are excited for some changes, some upcoming little tweaks to the podcast to kind of add a little bit more flavor and fun. So before we get into that, Mia, let's talk a little bit about how your holidays were.
Yeah. So Adrienne and I try our best to kind of batch episodes like a month at a time. So we haven't worked on the podcast for like 2-3 weeks because also as a school teacher, I had Christmas break. And so I have been out of town. Very, very good weekend or very, very good holiday break for me. I just read and relaxed and did absolutely nothing. I
did a lot of driving.
Yeah, I did a lot of driving, but actually it was, I don't know. I feel like every time I drive, I feel more and more adult where I'm like, it's not that bad.
It's really not.
Oh, I can do this. Like as a kid, it just felt so endless. And now as an adult, I'm like, blinked and it was over kind of thing.
Nice.
So yeah, just a very relaxing break. I realized I did really no yoga, which was interesting. I taught yesterday. Yesterday was December 30th at the time they were recording this, and it was my birthday. And so taught my last class of the year and had a lot of fun with that. But right before class, I was like, I have done no yoga for like 2 weeks, like no physical yoga at least. I've been doing some reading and like reflection, but other than that, I've just really taken time off to do absolutely nothing, which I really, really enjoy sometimes.
I know. Well, I took time off doing absolutely nothing, but not by choice.
No, yeah, you were forced.
I was forced. So, this is the shit that happens to me in normal life. Like I am the one that's going to have the weird ass stories that happen. And this is a weird ass story. So right before break, my husband and I went to do a couples float tank and salt cave experience. Really looking forward to it. We've had to reschedule it like 16 times because of my schedule. We finally go. It's a great place. The float tank thing I was kind of nervous about. Have you ever done one of those or heard about it?
I have seen them. I've never done one before because I did a cold plunge session and they had a float tank there. And so like I popped my head into every room because I wanted to see all their services.
Yeah.
And also really weird. I used to watch this show Fringe. Have you seen that?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's by the same like producer as Lost, and so that's my dad and I watched both of those together, and in it the like float tank is very central to the story.
Oh, really?
It's weird. Yeah,
it's a really weird experience. I mean, to be able to like lay there. We did a couples one, so we were in kind of like a big enclosed bathtub kind of thing, and it had a door, not like a lid on it. I felt okay because Brian was there with me, but if I did it by myself, I don't know how I would have felt. As soon as the lights and the music went off and it was complete like sensory deprivation, I just kept my eyes closed the whole time and I felt like I was like spinning. It was crazy. But afterwards, feeling so relaxed, we head into this little salt cave, which is just a spa room, treatment room, where they covered the walls and the floors and all this crushed up salt, and they have it blowing in the air and it's supposed to be really relaxing. And I was sitting on a beanbag chair on the floor, rubbing my feet in the salt, and Brian and I said, okay, let's get up and go. I go to stand up and underneath the salt was a slick tile floor, and I did the middle splits and busted my knees.
Ugh.
My left knee, I ended up getting 2 severe bone contusions. Could not put any weight on my knee at all for almost 2 full weeks. And around the holidays, it was so tough. Everyone had to carry shit for me. My kids were like annoyed. Where's your water bottle? I'm an ADHDer, so I always have like 3 drinks with me. I'm like, where's my coffee? Where's my water? Where's my Coke? And they did an amazing job being there for me. So I could kind of get through the holidays. But yeah, it forced me to stay still. And I'm not a still yogi. I'm not. So I got back to teaching yesterday for the first time and really enjoyed it. Not sure about movement yet for me, but walking right now feels good, and taking it easy has helped, even though it's so frustrating to stay down.
It is. It's hard. And also to stay down unwillingly, or like, because like I took the time off to do nothing. I genuinely just read for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I chose to do that. If I had been forced, it'd be a whole nother question, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, is that I was not expecting it. Thank God I did most of my Christmas shopping beforehand. So it was just a matter of, just sitting and waiting to feel better. But I've got some great friends that were to help me out and help me find a doctor quicker than my doctor. And, it worked out fine, but yeah, it was rough. Christmas was lovely. Good. Had a great time with the family, with the kids. I got some really cool presents, as you can see, because we're in our new redesigned, renovated pod loft that Campbell did for us for my Christmas present. She put up lights and shelves and yoga designs. It's beautiful. It's very cozy in here now. She did an amazing job. I'm just really grateful I had time with my family, time to just be there, not rush around and not have to cook a whole bunch of meals. We just laid low. Yeah, so that was holidays. Now we're getting into the new year. I'm really excited to see where this podcast goes. And our first episode of 2024 is with the most amazing yogi from Houston that we got to meet, Alicia Dugar Stephenson. She is known on the Instagram as Afro Yoga Queen. Her episode was so cool. Like, her interview was so cool. First of all, we were in Houston. We were sitting in the lobby bar of a hotel there that we had such a great time with her and with the staff talking. It was kind of a neat episode to hear kind of the bustling and hustling of the Houston, travelers in the background. But yeah, she was a really fun, lighthearted, but still like inspiring and vibrant interview. Really enjoyed talking to her.
Definitely. It was also an interview that, I was really looking forward to, because we had tried once before and then it kind of finally worked out.
I hounded the shit out of her.
Either way, let's jump into it. You can hear that interview and we'll talk to you soon.
Sweet. Namaste, yogis. This is Adrienne.
And Mia.
And our special guest,
Alicia.
Hello. We're so excited. So today we are remote podcasting in Houston, Texas.
H-Town.
H-Town in the house. We're at the Cambria Hotel in Houston, Texas, at this beautiful lobby. So you will hear some background noise as people check in and out. And we're by the lobby bar. So there'll be some glasses, kind of like a lobby bar.
Coffee
background.
shop vibes.
Coffee shop vibes,
Yeah.
Yes. So, Alicia, tell us a little bit about yourself. Just introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hello. I'm Alicia, and my philosophy is that the world could all use people who make it a little bit better. And I think about the saying, hurt people, but in the opposite, healed people. And with my background in diplomacy and international relations, I really see the ability for people to be connected to self, be happier with self. Mm-hmm. And so everything that I do is with that mindset. How can I spread light in this area that can have a ripple effect and really make the world that much better? Mm-hmm. So anything that I do, in the books that I do, the yoga teacher trainings that I do, the classes, the podcasts, the events, whatever, the events, the whatever even like in the moment, like sex with my husband, like in that moment, how can I make the world a little bit brighter?
You definitely have a ripple effect in the bedroom.
Yes, sex meditations and affirmations.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Yoga beyond the yoga mat.
Definitely. And the big why yoga that we talk about, because I feel like that is the one thing that the Western society is missing out on, is the big why yoga. So tell us your yoga origin story. When did you first hit the mat?
I like to back it up to when I didn't realize I was doing yoga. Mm-hmm. And it was like that rock bottom moment where I was diagnosed with lupus, So I finally figured out what it was, because before it was just like really scary. Like, why is my face so swollen that I look like a different person? Why are my eyes so swollen that everything is blurry? I can't see, can't even watch TV. Why are my feet so swollen that I can't walk? Like, I felt lost and really like rock bottom. But the good thing about rock bottom is that it can't go any lower.
Right. Can you give our listeners and me a little education on lupus itself?
Yes. Lupus looks very different. It's one of those umbrella terms that can mean a lot of things. In my case, it was inflammation of my joints. And so sometimes people have severe effect in their organs and their skin, and just there's so many different things. People die from lupus. So
it's definitely serious.
Exactly. So for me, it was debilitating. Like, I just was laying in the bed, sitting in a chair all day, and really questioning my life, because I had been like a high achiever. I had gotten honors at Rice University, which for those of y'all who don't live in the South, it's like a big deal.
It's a very big deal. Rice is
Harvard of the South, right?
Exactly.
A lot of people
Yes,
it is.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so y'all know.
No, we know.
Yes.
We
Okay, because sometimes I say they're like, where is that? Next to Beans University?
No.
And so I was so used to being able to do and being everywhere that I desired to be. And so not being able to move, I was just taking deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only relief that I had. Like, in that dark place, in that blurry environment, just my breath. And so that's when I first discovered yoga. Mm-hmm. But when my first formal yoga class, I had been hurting for a long time, and I was taking the very high doses of anti-inflammatories, like the highest they can prescribe you. And they're like, okay, here you go. Just take these as needed.
Yeah.
And so I was popping the mugs.
Yeah.
So I just remember it's always pain and numb. And somebody had invited me to yoga, but I was scared.
Mm-hmm. Why were you scared?
I grew up in a Black church. And by that, it's like super opinionated, judgmental, and they know the right way for everything.
Right.
And so when I had the conversation about yoga, I was like, oh, can't do yoga. That's evil. They're going to cast demons into you. And
of the devil.
They're over there worshiping the devil.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, oh, I can't do that. I don't want to be possessed.
I don't want to invite that into my life.
Right, exactly. Open a portal. Yeah.
I was so scared my first yoga class. Okay, so there was this juxtaposition happening. I walked in. It was a hot yoga class. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I love being warm because I live in the South. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I walked past the threshold and immediately feel this welcoming warmth all over my body. I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. And I was also like, oh, maybe this is how they get me to let my guard down.
To get the demons in you.
Get the demons. That whole
demons
class.
like heat, right? Demons are burning in hell, right?
I know. I was like, oh.
They know me well.
This is how they're doing it.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, God, please protect me. And, every time we come back to prayer pose, I'm like, God, please protect me.
Exactly.
So that was my first experience. I felt amazing, though. Mm-hmm. This was before people were scared to be close to each other. So I was like, right on top of the person next to me. But it felt like I was the only person there. And I was like, all right, make sure there's no demons around here. But I felt amazing. And so that was my aha moment. It was like, what?
Yeah.
My body can feel good. Mm-hmm. I had been pain and numb for so long. Like, I need more of this. And so I dove head first. Like, I was going to all the classes. I had it was back when they did like the exchange. You could like work at the studio.
Yeah. Yoga for trade. Yeah.
Yes.
I did that too. That's how I got my 200 hour for like half price.
Yes. I did that. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And they had like 5 or 7 locations in Houston. I was going to all the locations. I was taking all the classes. It was my new, take these as needed.
Yes.
Like instead of the anti-inflammatory, because my body started to feel so good. I was going all the time.
I love that.
Like literally anybody who knows me, you call me on the phone. Hey, Alicia, what are you doing? On my way to yoga. Hey, Alicia, what are you doing? Just leaving yoga. Hey, Alicia, what are you doing? I'm looking at the yoga schedule.
Yeah.
Like
thinking about yoga.
Exactly. It is like that sometimes though, especially when you're at a place of rock bottom, right? And I think that being able to be open to walk into the studio afraid of demons, right? So when you started to go to class all the time, what did the church say?
Well, after the first class, we were in Shavasana, looking around, and afterward, I'm like, see any demons around here?
No one crawled in my bag when on my way home.
I guess maybe I'm good. So I was hesitant at first, just and continued to go. And then I realized like, okay, coast is clear.
Yeah.
And it was a go for me. I did not talk to anybody at the church because I realized that if people are small-minded and feel some type of way, I don't feel like it's my personal mission to change anybody's mind.
Right.
Like that has never really been my thing. So I'm like, okay, you think yoga's evil? Take you and your opinions over there.
Yeah.
And I'll be over here with my pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feeling good.
Exactly. Not in pain and not numb.
Exactly.
Like actually experiencing life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. And I think that your perspective on that is so much different than what my perspective was I was like, have you tried yoga? Let's go. Come to yoga with me. Like as soon as I felt it, I wanted it to be with everyone that I loved, and no one was ready. No one was ready. And I needed to give that space. So it's really cool that you were able to be like, okay, cool. You don't need it right now.
Right. I was like, this is my thing.
Yeah. Don't take my thing.
Yeah. I would go to class alone. I never invited anybody to yoga. It was my thing. Literally, people started asking me what I was doing because I told you about the hurt people. I was hurting. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I was not a nice person when I was hurting. I realized this because people in different groups of my life, like my coworkers, my church friends and family, and my personal, like, inner circle family, would all say, oh, Alicia, you've been in such a good mood lately. You've been so nice lately. And just like those comments, I'm like, are they playing with me? Like, why? This can't be a prank. They don't know each other. Mm-hmm. And so then I started to realize that I was feeling better and it was affecting the way that I was treating people.
You were showing up differently.
And so that's when people started to ask me, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. What are you doing now? Okay. Oh, yoga? And so that's where it started for them, where I never pushed it on them at all.
Right.
They just saw the difference.
That's so cool.
That's huge.
I think that's very inspiring for other yoga teachers to understand that as well. It's like give them the space, set and model the example that you want. Model it. Model the behavior. Like I think that everyone should learn from that, right? Like if you want to be a good person, be a good person. Model that behavior. Others will follow that need you. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Next question.
Sure. And actually kind of led us into, so I'm going to skip one forward. I would imagine you noticed it when other people noticed it, right? Everyone's saying like, you're nice. What's going on? What's changing? Did you notice prior to that? Were there any changes for yourself because of yoga?
Ooh, okay. This question is really cool because I feel like people all come for different reasons. I came strictly for the physical. I wasn't thinking about being a nicer person. I honestly didn't. I mean, I was a people pleaser because that's like how I grew up, and I wanted people to like me. And like, if you look at me and I smile at you, smile back at me. And I'm like, oh, like, why didn't they smile back at me? Yeah. So yes, there's a little bit of that. And I came because I needed relief. I was tired of living the way that I was living. And so through that, everything else started to blossom and unveil itself. And so that's when I started to discover the different components. I'm like, okay, well, and I had amazing teachers. So that's another thing. You can't, like, some people will take a terrible yoga class and think that all yoga is terrible. But, like, think about food. You can eat somebody's terrible food, but does that mean you're never going to eat food again? Right. Like, come on.
Right. It's like you can have a hamburger from McDonald's or you could have a hamburger from In-N-Out.
Right? I don't hating on McDonald's right now.
I don't eat fast food, so I cannot. I have no idea what that means.
You can get a carrot from HEB or you get a carrot from Whole Foods. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. It's a carrot.
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
Keep going.
I mean, I feel like, for me, everything else started to develop after I got the physical thing. Like, that's what I came for. I didn't care. I didn't even hear what the yoga teachers were saying at first. It was just like, they might have been saying some philosophical shit. I was there taking deep breaths, and I noticed that it was a good class when I was like, wow, my body feels better. And that's it. It was, black and white for me. And then when other people started to essentially show a mirror of what was going on in my body and in my energy, then I started to say, like, oh, this is affecting other areas of my life. And that's when I started to really get intrigued by that and look into that deeper. And, just being supported by amazing teachers and people in the yoga studios, because I was going so much that they started to learn my name.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, Alicia. So I started to really feel like I belonged there. And then the other components developed out of that. Whereas, like, the first time I was going to yoga, I didn't even wear my glasses in. I would leave my glasses in the car. I didn't need to look at anybody. I wasn't there to talk to anybody. I don't even remember anybody's name from those times. I just went in, got on my mat, rolled it up, and was out. Like, this is what I came for. Yes.
Take as needed. Take as needed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense, especially, I would imagine it was chronic pain.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And
I would wake up wishing I had not woken up. It was bad. Like, oh, my gosh.
yeah. And so then finding that relief, of course, you're going to fixate on the relief. Chronic pain is debilitating.
Yeah. I suffer with osteoarthritis and severe fibromyalgia. So for me, I'm like chronic pain. So for me, yoga is the release. It's the movement that's important. And I think that when people feel pain, they stop moving, right? Even back in the day, if you hurt your shoulder, they'd say, like, don't move your shoulder, right? And it's like, but if I don't move my shoulder, then I'm just getting more and more of that kind of buildup of, the tissue, the fascia, the kind of fuzz in between. And then when I do go to move, it's not at the range of motion it used to be, right? And I feel like when we're in pain, we should lean into some kind of movement if it feels good in your body, right? Instead of avoiding it or tensing up.
And so that was obviously practicing, right? At what point did you decide, okay, and now I'm going to teach yoga?
It was well after I had a lot of people asking me, like, Alicia, what are you doing differently? And it's funny because my sisters, growing up, I was in childhood where there were 4 of us in the house, 4 kids. And I was always seen as this, like, golden child until, like, the last straw on my back. And so it's like, then I was the bitch. I was like, And so, okay, I forgot the question. Give it to me again.
I love it.
You're good. I asked, at what point was it like, okay, practicing yoga, loving it, now I'm going to teach yoga?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The recollection has reemerged. So then I realized, after people asked me, I realized, okay, there's something to this. And the teachers at the studio, they had their audience and they had their people who were coming to them. But these people specifically wanted to know why it was working for me. And so I realized that my perspective and my message would be something that could touch the people who needed to hear from me, as opposed to the people who needed to hear, what the other teachers had to say. And so I felt like called to that. Once I started hearing about yoga teacher training, I was like, okay, well, I've always liked to lead people. I was the oldest girl of 3, and I was always like the leader of things. And I was the captain of the science club and the captain of the cheer team. And I just had the propensity to be in leadership roles. It's one of my spiritual gifts, is leadership. And so I was like, okay, I can do this. Let me see what this is about. And as soon as it just, like, all the pieces fell together, as soon as I desired to be a yoga teacher, then the studio owner was like, hey, I have these 4 classes. And whenever you finish your certification, they're yours. And in the certification, I'm like the student that people want in their class. I'm in the front row. I raise my hand. I have the questions. Like, there's times where I don't respond because I'm like, all right, Alicia, let other people talk. You don't have to express your opinion about everything. And so it fit. It made sense. Like, my and I feel like this is so cool since I discovered this. My 3 spiritual gifts are mercy, leadership, and wisdom. And so I didn't know this at the time, but it just felt like when I heard it, it was like, there's something there. And so it really intrigued me to look into it further. And then it wouldn't leave me alone. It was like in my dreams. And it was like, become a yoga teacher. The world needs you. And then I told you my background in diplomacy and international relations. So I was like, you can change the world. This is the key. It's not working for the State Department.
Right.
It's not being in the bureaucracy. It's radically changing the world through feeling pleasure.
Yes.
And I was like, yes, do it. And so then I did it.
It's amazing. So it's interesting because you said like, hey, I was the one that asked all the questions. You know, when I was like the top student, I had an experience in my teacher training where they told me to be quiet because I was talking and asking the questions. And I was like, okay, learning moment here. It's tough. It's tough. Did you find that you had any of like the emotional roller coaster ride on your teacher training journey?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's imperative to have that. Every teacher training, I just finished a meditation masters of wisdom training with an amazing teacher. And it was like a 300-hour meditation training. I have forgotten more things from that training than most people will ever know about meditation, the mind, philosophy in their entire life.
Yeah.
And every training that I've done, even this most recent one, every single one, there's an emotional roller coaster. And I feel like I have come to lean into that as part of my transformation process. There is a major, major resistance where there is like, there's something here and I just don't want to do it. Like, it's like painful. And then I get past it and it's like, awesome. It just develops into this beautiful aha moment that ripples across my whole life. And it's just like, yes, exactly. I have it all. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So once you started teaching, and then tell us kind of like the rest of that journey from there, because you've had a great career so far in yoga.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Like I said, everything just started falling into place. It was like this was meant to be. I was reached out to. My network is amazing. They placed me at a major park here in Houston, the Discovery Green Park. So I was teaching there every week. I was working with nonprofits. I was working at the studios. And then there was a point in my life where I started to do retreats and I was going abroad. And then I was like, oh, this is how I can use my French. And I took a group of people to France and it was amazing. And then we did a whole tour of Europe. And I mean, just really been a roller coaster ride. Amazing, amazing fun. And there's the times where I started to lead teacher trainings. I went that route. I was really studying under my teachers. I got to as a result, I got to pour into a lot of people who didn't see many teachers that looked like me at the time.
Yes.
So like back in the day, I think I've been in the industry for like 10 plus years now. Yeah. And so back in the day.
It's about when I started too. It was about 10 years ago. So I know exactly what you're talking about. They all looked like me.
Yeah. So they see me walk in and they're like, well, okay. I mean, there's been points where, and this was more of like with white men. I'm like, well, what are your credentials?
Really?
Like, okay.
That's fucking crazy.
Yes. Well, I mean, he was very much older. And he had, some success in his other career. And then walk in and see me as the lead teacher trainer for this thing that he paid thousands and thousands of dollars for. I mean, he wanted to know, why should I trust what you say?
Yeah.
And so I feel like there was the validity of that. But I also feel like if I had looked more like him, would that have even been a question?
I wonder, because sometimes I think, like, I grew up in the beer business selling beer before I became a yoga teacher. So it's like I studied philosophy, sold beer, and now I teach yoga. It's very interesting. But this was back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, where women weren't really in the beer business. We were the assistants, we were the executive assistants, we were the admins, but we weren't out selling to other people. And I felt a great deal, mostly white people, mostly white men, right? And I worked in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and West Virginia. And I lived in Atlanta. And I would show up and they'd be like, fuck this girl. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You know, and then we ended up changing in perspective, right? And then something we've been talking a lot about is like that first impression on someone, right? It's like, I look at you, when you walked in, I looked at you, all I saw was beauty and energy and vibe. Like somebody that I want to like have you close to my body. You know what I mean? Like I want you to put in my pocket. I want to carry you around with me, you know? Like just because you have that kind of energy. So I guess I just don't relate to people that would come in with that perspective to you or any of us.
Well, luckily, I've done a lot of meditating in my life. And, you know, I didn't take it personally at the time. I actually thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah. I would have too. Yeah.
Well, also, you know, there's so many of them at Rice. So I've been around them a lot in my life. They don't faze me.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to kind of like you were working in studios. So
and I managed studios.
Oh, yeah.
So, I didn't put that in there, but yes, that happened. It was awesome.
Now, I would like to know, what lineage did you study with your 200-hour? Like, what kind of background of yogi are you?
I studied, it was a mix between Hatha and Vinyasa. So it was with the traditional Baptiste yoga, that was one of the lineage that my teacher, Roger Rippey at the time, oh my gosh, love the Rippies. They're awesome. They were the first people, oh my gosh, actually studying to be a yoga teacher trainer made me a better wife. This was back before I was ever in a successful relationship. Like my relationships were so bad that they mostly ended with the cops being called. It was so bad. So yoga has changed my life beyond the physicality of it. Like my husband benefits every single day from me going through yoga teacher training. So that element, and then there's the forest inspiration from his wife, Albina Rippey. And so with them combined, it was a hot and a flow training. So that was amazing. And then immediately following that, I went to Thailand. Like I said, everything just lined up. It was so great.
I was going to say, it seems like that. Yeah, once you're open to it.
Exactly. That's so true. And so I went to Thailand and studied restorative yoga and yoga therapy. And it was so great to have right after having done 200-hour hatha, because I feel like a lot of teachers in the beginning of their career, they're essentially saying the things that their teachers said. And so having such a different type of yoga training really had me think outside the box. And so it's just like eye-opening. And so after that, then I went on to do my 500-hour, and then I went on to do other trainings. And like I said, I just finished a 300 hours. So I have well over 1,000 hours of yoga because I just love it. And like you said, I'm open to absorbing. Like it's so exciting for a high achiever like me. Like when I graduated from Rice, it was really, really hard.
I can't even
because
imagine.
I was such a high achiever that I always like to have big goals. And it was just like, okay, that's it. Like, you could come back and get a PhD, sure. But I felt like this is the climax that I was looking forward to, I was humping it all the way here. And now
and you're like, thanks for the piece of paper.
Exactly. So yoga really is exciting because they're limitless opportunities to learn and absorb. And so that's really what has drawn me through these last 10 years. Just so excited. Like,
give me more. I know.
So many climaxes available.
Yeah, there is. It's interesting you say, because I went through 2 teacher trainings right after my 200-hour, and I learned a totally different style as well. And I think that really did open me up to understanding it's not just about this lineage. It's not just about this style. Like if you go and you take a shitty yoga class, I've never actually said that. I've never taken a shitty yoga class, right? I've never walked out of a yoga class and been like, that was the worst hour of my life. I could usually say something good happened, right? Yeah. But that idea of like walking in the first time, trying it out and not liking it, it's like, well, go back and try somebody else. Go someplace else, right? You got to look for your tribe.
I'm like, even if the teacher is terrible, that for me helps me with my practice in a different way. It's like, okay, here you are, right here in this moment. What are you going to focus on?
That's so true. That's so true. Because I recently took a class that really edged me, like put me on edge, anxious, angry almost. And I still am like processing it because I haven't had a class like that in a long time. Because even if I go to a class where I'm like, oh, I know this teacher's new, or I know this teacher's struggling with this, or feels uncomfortable because I'm in the room, because that happens too.
Like they're like, oh,
yeah,
Alicia's here.
Yeah.
Okay, she's gonna be thinking about things that I probably am doing wrong.
Right.
Oh, what should I do?
Yeah. And it's like they're terrified. And it's like, dude, I'm here to support you. My job is to make sure that you are giving the most of yourself in the way that you should show up. It's not about me, right? It's not about my style. It's about your style and getting your style to shine. And you're right. It's interesting. People do repeat and kind of absorb just that one teacher.
Oh my gosh. I can tell who you've studied with when I take your class, then you're not being enough yourself. Like if you and there have been teachers that I've taken their classes and I just know of their teacher. I maybe have never even taken their teacher's class, but I know of and am familiar with their style. And I've been like, this is like I'm taking that person's class, not your class.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that in 200 hours you really get to your teaching voice.
Oh, no.
You know, that takes
I always
a
say
long
this,
time.
it's a ground floor.
It really is.
You got in the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're in the
Like
lobby.
here.
Yeah.
Downstairs. That's not even the place that you need to be.
Exactly. That's like the half lobby.
Yes.
Now you're in the lobby.
Like in Europe, it's great. All the ground floors are not really the first place to be. It's just like that's where you enter the building. It's level 0.
Really?
Then you go to level 1.
I had no idea. That's pretty interesting. So again, going kind of back into, so you kind of learned the Hatha Vinyasa, then you went to Thailand and you had this amazing experience. How long were you in Thailand for? Was that a long trip?
I was there a week and it was intense.
I can't even imagine.
It was intense. And we did yoga from sun up to sundown. We had like long lunches and stuff, got to get massaged on the beach. It was great. And it was right off the back of my last abusive relationship. And it was so what I needed because it was like, even though I was in teacher training at the time of my second abusive relationship, and I think I wrote about this in my book, in my first book, I realized that I was still going home and seeing the person. So I'm having all these learnings and, having all these aha moments, but I didn't really get to apply them because he was who he was.
Yeah.
And I had already created the environment that supported our previous style of relationship. And so getting away and really not having to do the normal everyday things and interact with the normal everyday people, I really got to change. And so when I came home from Thailand, my family was like, who are you? Huh?
Yeah.
They're like, this is not the same person that we saw last week. And so I do recommend to people, like, if you're in a critical moment in your life, if there is some things that you feel ashamed about and you're like, man, I need to change this and you don't know how, getting into something where you're supported by another person can help you do that.
Yeah.
And so that's what yoga training has been for me. And it may not look the same for everyone, but it has, oh my gosh, transformed my life completely. If people meet me from high school, they recognize me because I have the same face.
Right.
But I am healthier, fitter, happier.
Yeah.
Like my whole energy is completely different. I mean, I was popular and awesome in high school, but I am awesomer.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly. You have achieved the level that of greatness that you should be at right now. And there's even further to go too, for sure. So I have a question for you, because you grew up in Houston. You said you grew up with your sisters. You grew up in a church that did not think that yoga was, a healthy, positive thing to do for your life.
And now I teach yoga there.
And now you teach yoga at that church.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's freaking amazing.
Yes. And I just hosted a health festival there.
That's where that was that you just did?
Yes.
Oh.
They have a community building, and I'm now in the first family there. So yeah, my mom married the pastor, the senior pastor, and so it's kind of cool.
So so you're a preacher's stepdaughter.
Yes. It's awesome because I've always respected him. The way that he preaches is really like a teaching style. Like he gives out notes when you come on Sunday. Everybody get notes, and there's like fill in the blank, and there's research and things. And
I want to come.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I wasn't able to go this morning because I stayed out so late last night celebrating my husband's birthday and Veterans Day.
Aww.
That literally, when my alarm went off, I was just like, please tell me I didn't miss this interview. Like I did not know what time it was. Just didn't know where I was. I was just like, I haven't partied like that since.
You partied like a rock star last night.
Oh my gosh. I was turned. Okay.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So how did you get that to happen? How did that transformation? Because you said like it's yoga here, Western yoga is skinny white bitches, right? How did you, and rich, because it's expensive to practice yoga. How did you take that and get the church to then transform and be able to let you host there?
It was living the yoga lifestyle instead of forcing the yoga mindset or philosophy or theory of yoga. Mm-hmm. It was being the yoga. And like I said, when people ask, like, oh, Alicia, you're always in a good mood. Like, tell me what that's about. Oh, Alicia, you look so young. Tell me what that's about. Oh, Alicia, I know you were diagnosed with lupus, but you look so healthy. Tell me more about that. Oh, Alicia, wow, this terrible thing just happened, but you are okay. Like, tell me why that is. And so just over the course of life and being the person that keeps up with the practice. Like, I don't treat it like eating a healthy salad one day and thinking that I'm going to, lose weight or be healthy or my blood work's going to change. It's like a consistent lifestyle of being the yogi that allowed them to realize like, oh, she's not up in here calling on demons. Like she's living a lifestyle that is, for them, they see it through the eyes of the church. Like, okay, she's living like God would want us to live. Mm-hmm. And so maybe there's more to this yoga thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe I need to ask a question. And so I've actually, even through my book, like I said, like everything that I do, I try to shine what is inside and what I've been gifted with. And so the pastor read my book and he was like, oh, this is what yoga is about. Because when people don't understand things, people don't grasp things, they don't comprehend things, and they make assumptions. Mm-hmm. Because our brain is amazing. It likes to fill in the blanks. It doesn't like to have unknowns.
Right.
And so if they don't know, especially in our culture, it's very easy to label it as something that's not good, something to be feared.
Right.
So me showing up like, hey, being me, it has allowed them to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how do you handle it from like a scheduling standpoint? Like when you decided, hey, I'm a yogi, I'm a full-time yogi. This is my career. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to build this business. It's interesting because I think I know the answer to it. It just kind of falls into place because of the energy that you're putting out there. But like, what kind of things started to happen for you that you were able to walk away from the studio life and build your own life?
Okay, so there's a couple things, and it's like a progression. So first, I was working full time. I was managing. I was awesome. I was like, running in corporate. I was climbing that ladder, baby. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've always been that overachiever. So I was up there. I was getting promotions. I was like getting it.
Yeah.
And then I found yoga, and I started to go at 6 a.m. And I never liked waking up early in the morning, but I would wake up to go to yoga. Yeah. And so like even my coworkers would be like, Alicia, you can kind of, have you been to yoga lately? You kind of a little testy today. So they could tell.
So true.
They could tell. Mm-hmm. And so that I was fitting it in here and there as much as possible. And then when I started to teach, I was fitting it in to fit my schedule. And then I transitioned to the studio. So I was managing at the studio and teaching at the studio. And then I started to do retreats And so I did retreats on my vacation. And so that, fit in, and it would, was surprising. I was like, oh, I can make this extra revenue. I can do something I really enjoy, which is travel and speak French parce que j'aime beaucoup parler français. And then I just noticed different ways where I could bring it in. Then I started to really gain visibility online because I started to show up. And then people who weren't in my immediate vicinity started to know who I was. And then people, were coming from other places to connect with me, on different platforms and different mediums. And so I started to really bring value to people. And when I feel like the world is reciprocal. When you bring value, then you're also able to receive value. And I was receiving it at such a high level that when COVID came, I stopped managing at the studios prior to that. I started teaching full time because I was one of the lead teachers and I was doing teacher trainings. So that was the first transition. And then when the world changed, I did my own teacher trainings. I think I had been doing them as well prior to that, a little bit here and there. And then I just leaned into it and realized that virtual training was a thing that was possible and that could work and that could be as effective. Maybe didn't feel as good, but it could be as effective to, have students in Kenya and Switzerland and, East Coast and West Coast. And it was just really amazing. So I really leaned into that.
That's so cool. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's see if there's any. You kind of mentioned a lot of your aha moments. Do you have any other aha moments, either teaching someone, training someone, or taking a class yourself?
I have aha moments all the time because I really look at myself as a student of life. And so, even coming here and I was driving and I'm all bundled up because I don't have any doors on the Jeep right now. And the weather went down, but my husband hasn't put the doors back on, which is awesome because I used to ride motorcycles.
Oh,
so
nice.
I was a diehard motorcycle rider, rain, seat, snow. I was there.
No way.
On the go.
Wow.
And people would see me going by. And, when it was really cold, I'd be there shivering. And so it's just life brings me all these aha moments. So today when I was writing, it's I feel alive. I feel alive. So I have so many aha moments every single day. I've been working on this pleasure meditation. And I'm thinking about doing a pleasure meditation marathon for the new year. Ooh. And something as amazing as feeling your nipples, without touching them with your hands, but being aware of them.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
That's been my most recent aha moment, was doing pleasure meditations.
I like that.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to share it with the world. It's orgasmic.
Well, I've been following you on Instagram since before I moved to San Antonio, and to me, it's very interesting how life kind of brings people in and out. And I followed you probably from something that I saw online that I thought was inspirational. And I just connected with you virtually, right? Follow. And then as we're going through our process of doing this podcast, one of our students had recommended, we said, we're going to Houston. Anybody got any recommendations? Someone said, hey, get Afro Yoga Queen. And I was like, I looked up, I'm like, I've been following her for freaking ever. And then I just got chills. So made me feel and I was pushy. I kept you.
I appreciate it because I've been very chill lately because I have so many things. I have so many big projects that have just been finishing this month.
Yeah.
And so I had really not even been doing anything but those things because it just took so much out of me. But it's been a learning. That's an aha moment too.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Focus.
Yeah.
On one thing.
So what are you most excited about for 2024?
Ooh, I am launching.
Say it right.
I'm launching a 1,000-hour teacher training. And this is comprised of an advanced specialization. So you have the option to choose. We have a couple sound healers who really want to focus on sound. So we're going to bring in some experts for that. And so it gives you the opportunity, kind of like college, to take something that is so expansive, so ancient, so prophetic, like yoga, and allow you to really study what's unique to you. And then following that advanced training, we are going to publish a text and do research. So we're going to publish peer-reviewed yoga research as a part of the certification program. And it is going to be something that we do and we put out on a consistent basis. So they're going to be consistent volumes of this research to really, because I realize that our communities really need to see the effectiveness of yoga and not just see the woo-woo side of yoga.
Right.
And so there are studies out there, but they're like here and there, you know, got to find them, got to search for them. But to really put it mainstream, like yoga is a science, yoga is a
of your body.
Yoga is something that is effective in so many ways. And so that's what I'm really excited about. I love, love, love studying. So I'm the type of person that when people are in training, like I like when they ask questions, like ask me questions. Even if I don't know the answer, I love the questions and I will do more research and come back to you with some more resources.
I'm the same way. Like I will go down rabbit holes of like what, like I'm doing a class through the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation.
Ooh.
And it's brain longevity and yoga.
What?
And it is intense.
Are you getting the data for this?
Oh, what do you mean by
Are
data?
you on the data side?
No. I'm just taking the class.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just registered to take the class.
Gotcha.
It's an online class.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask
that.
you about the data part of it because the research thing is what, like, people like facts.
Yeah.
Right? People like to know, like, 85% of the world has found that meditation is possible, right? And hopeful, whatever. So how, with your data, with your research, are you talking about like the people that are going to be in the training or kind of like all of the elements of what you're doing?
So it's a multi-layered thing. I see. I apologize. I have to run to the bathroom. Okay.
That's fine.
I see yoga and the public as being more closely intertwined than people realize. And so I really see it as a visual and a text-based project. So including video and bringing that video to mainstream. So, you know, many of the major distributors that you would have on an app on your phone to be able to actually participate through there. But the actual text that's presented would be like a cross between Chicken Soup for the Yoga Soul and peer-reviewed research. So like bringing in the story element
the stories.
And the facts.
Yes. I love that. And I think that that's important because like science can be kind of science, right? Where you don't understand.
Very disconnected.
Right. And even though we're in bodies, we weren't taught how to embody our body, right? We weren't taught how the muscles move and how we can, you know, heal ourselves in some ways.
Exactly.
Right. And so
that's something I love. Our bodies, ever since your first scrape, knee, elbow, cold, whatever, has been bringing yourself back to homeostasis. And so this idea that our bodies are incapable of healing is preposterous to me.
It is absolutely. And I feel like that the science of yoga, this is why we started this podcast, was like these are everyday people that have found yoga in their lives and it's made an impactful change, a positive impactful change. And I loved when you said like the ripple effect, right? The idea of just like showing up and being that model yogi, being the yogi that you are, and then having that bleed into everything else. And ripple into other people and make that change. And maybe they don't know it. Like when I was in Chicago, that's where I moved from to San Antonio like 4 years ago. I'm a shy.
So you know about the cold.
I know about the cold beyond the cold.
Man, I remember being in Chicago and having on layers, okay? And I had lived in Michigan at the time. And so I'm like, oh, we're good.
There's something different about Chicago. That wind will just bite you.
I punked my jacket.
Yeah.
It was like all the way down to my bones. I felt that cold.
Yeah.
I would never forget it.
No, I had a sleeping bag jacket. Like I had a jacket that went down to my ankles, right?
No.
And it had a hood on it with like all this, you know, fur and Sherpa, whatever. And I couldn't hear anybody around me. Like when I would go pick up my kids, I wouldn't even recognize my friends because they're all bundled up in jackets and shit. Yeah. But in Chicago, I started teaching in middle schools and teaching yoga during like wellness hours and then after school yoga and that kind of thing. And I remember like, after school activities, a lot of times it's like parents will be like, oh, it's an extra hour. Great. Take my kids for an extra hour. Right. And so we would get the kids that wanted to be there and we get the kids that had to be there.
Yeah.
And the kids that had to be there were the ones that benefited the most from it. And I remember looking at these two twin boys, Jack and George. And I remember thinking in like 20 years when they're sitting at the table with their families and they'll laugh about the fact, like, remember when mom made us do yoga as a kid? Like that, even if that's just the only memory, that's fine. But if it makes some sort of a change in their life, if maybe they're breathing a little easier, they find more patience. You said your whole life changed when you went and like started teacher training. Same. I was more patient with my kids. I was clearer in my communication. Right? Like I could express myself better. It's interesting, but it's something that, I don't know, yoga should be in school. It should be a subject. It should be studied just like science, math, reading, all of it.
And I mean, as soon as the powers that be can monetize it to the highest capacity, I think that then it will be more mainstream.
I know. That's what sucks about it, though. And that's kind of where I was going with it, too, is like the fact that you were able to go out on your own and do yoga and have a full-time job doing that is super inspirational. It's super inspiring to me, especially like coming out of San Antonio. Like I went from Chicago where it's a very mature yoga market, right? Very deep rooted. Houston seems to be pretty deep rooted too. San Antonio, not so much. And you go up to Austin, super deep rooted yoga. But during COVID, 10 yoga studios closed in San Antonio. So that impact of where can I go? Where can I get this? It's hard.
I do like to talk about this because I feel like so many yoga teachers, it's the same concept, but in a different variety, in a different manifestation. So many teachers see, okay, I'm taking yoga at a yoga studio. I am going to this place. I am hearing this type of message. And they think that if I replicate this, then I can create that same thing. However, the people that need your message may not need to receive it in that way. Those people may not be waking up thinking, oh, I need to go to yoga today. They might be waking up thinking like, oh, wow, I wish my family got along better. I wish my mother, didn't do drugs. I wish, they're dealing with different things when you're talking about like you said, less mature yoga audience or people who...
Or less exposed.
Right.
They're not exposed to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're not thinking, hey, let me go find a yoga studio. They're thinking, hey, how do I get out of pain?
Yeah.
And so when I talk to teachers who ask me, like, how can I get out into the yoga market? I tell them, forget what you see and forget what you've thought about, I'm going to create this class that looks like that other class. No, create something that really solves a problem because everybody is dealing with problems. Everybody has problems that they're willing to pay to solve. And so your job as a yoga teacher and as an independent yoga teacher especially is to, in your brain, find a solution for the problems for the people you want to serve. When you find that solution and you know how to word it to them to where they realize that you have the value, that's when they can say, oh, let me come to you. Let me look to you for the solution. But if you're just saying, hey, yoga, like I wouldn't have thought yoga is going to help me to get out of an abusive relationship. So if somebody would say, hey, come to yoga. I mean, if I hadn't been hurting and somebody said, hey, come to yoga. I tried yoga after I tried everything else because I didn't know what it was. So if you're communicating the thing that it is, the term that you use, the way that you describe it needs to speak to your people. Yeah. If they think yoga and attribute it to evil, then you're going to have to come at a different way. Or if they think yoga and attribute it to, oh, this is not for me, then you need to speak to people. Maybe you don't even say the word yoga.
Exactly.
Like, hey, mindful movement. I mean, I don't know whatever your audience is. Like if you're working with people who are out of surgery. They may think I can't do yoga because I can't move my body.
Right.
But everybody can take a deep breath. So maybe your thing is healing breaths. I mean, whatever it is, you take that concept and think outside the box. Literally, there is no box until you say, I need to do the thing that this other person is doing. Then you're in their box and you cannot dominate in somebody else's box.
Mm-hmm. No, that is so true. That is so true. All right, so I think we asked mostly everything. Let's just finish it up with, so what can others learn from your yoga journey story?
Okay, if I had to describe it in one sentence, I would say hope. Whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that you're struggling with physically, non-physically, emotionally, mentally, relationship-wise, the more that you go inside, the more that you'll find your inner wisdom. And when you have grace with yourself, and you don't think like, oh, I'm just going to fix all my problems after one yoga class, or I'm going to just instantly be the healthiest after I eat this piece of fruit. It's really this consistent, like you have to show up consistently to do the thing and have the thing that's right for you.
Yeah, I like it. To get bigger, you got to go in. To grow, you got to go in. And that is what most people avoid the most. Right? It's like reach out for help, reach out for this. Yeah, we can do that, but a lot of it's do the work, do the internal work.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even like I said, I started this meditation training in July, right around my birthday, and I mean, I've had all the breakthroughs. I've done the work. I know the sutras. I know I've read the Bhagavad Gita. I know all the things, and it's just. Every time I approach the lessons, every time I approach the studies, I come to it with a beginner's mind. And it's amazing. I mean, I don't have to second guess myself. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to pronounce everything perfectly. I don't have to be right all the time. Just realizing that I'm enough and that this work is really about doing just that, being ourselves, yoking with ourselves, connecting to ourselves. Like, that's the beauty of it. And so I encourage all the people out there, like, if you're looking for answers, chances are they're inside. So the cool thing about it is that if you have a good teacher and you align with people around you that can help you to support you when you're going through that journey, that's going to make it all the better. Because if I'm around a whole bunch of people who've never graduated high school and don't see a value, and not that graduating high school is like this big thing, but if I'm around a whole bunch of people who've never had a home cooked meal and all they eat is something out of a package, they're not going to value the nutrient level and the the care that it takes to eat a home cooked meal. So just know that the people around you are influencing you, whether you like it or not, realize it or not. So if you're feeling like you're stuck, then maybe you just add one person that is doing the thing that you see yourself doing. And maybe you listen to that person's podcast. Maybe you read that person's book. Maybe you watch that person's TV show. Maybe you join that person's teacher training. Whatever it is, like, align yourself with the person who's doing the thing so that you can be influenced in the positive way towards where you want to go. And then, everything's awesome.
I love it. All right. Give a shout out to all the things that you're doing. Where can we follow you? What are you doing next? Where are you going to be, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay. Thank you so much for asking. So I'm really focused I do so many things that if you want to know what I'm doing, follow me on IG or YouTube at Afro Yoga Queen. There are some classes on YouTube. So if you want to practice with me and you're like, I just need to move my body, any level, any type of body, you can practice with me on YouTube. I give so many options. So you're welcome to join me. And I am so excited to launch the 1,000-hour
It's really exciting.
yoga teacher training. So if you're interested in really studying, we start at the beginning. So you don't have to be an expert. I actually prefer not to have to assist you unlearning a lot of things. So if you'd like to come along for the journey, reach out to me. We can get you into an application process. We can get you interviewed, all of that, so that you can join. And we are launching... Oh my gosh, this offer is crazy. We are offering people an amazing guarantee. Like, if you do not make $5,000 per month after completing our training, you get your money back.
Shut the fuck up.
That's
So, like, if you feel like this may be something you can do,
That's incredible.
then go for it. My thing is, I don't want money to keep people from doing the thing that's calling to them. The thing that's like in your sleep, waking you up. Like, I need to be showing up. I need to be doing more. Yeah. If you're feeling called, like, let your calling lead the way. Don't let the finances hold you back.
That's the hardest part for me that I find too, is like that yoga teachers, we're not millionaires, right? Especially when you're just starting off yet. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And
I will announce to the world when I hit that mark. So don't worry.
Good. I know you will. And you better hit it soon. I know you will. I have faith in you. But I feel like we have value. You said that earlier. And finding that energetic exchange, right? That even energetic exchange. And I feel like people need to take that into consideration when they're going to apply for a training. It's like, remember, yes, financially, it's a commitment, but money is not the answer. The answer is in that training that you want to do. So get out of that mindset of desperation.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And into that inspiration.
Oh, yeah. Because I didn't think I had any money when I first got the opportunity to do teacher training. But as soon as in my head and my heart, I said yes, I literally got like several $1,000s in a check like that next week. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay.
Guess I'm doing teacher training.
It was enough for me to take teacher training, go to Thailand. Like,
no way.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Everything lined up. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, don't let anything hold you back from shining your light in the world. Because I know for me, what I realized is that my rock bottom was because I wasn't serving anybody. Mm. I wasn't helping anybody. Yeah. And so I was dark. Yeah. It hurt physically not to share with the world, not to make the world a better place. So if you're hurting right now, it could be a reason, maybe, not to say that everybody's story is the same, right. But I learned that if I don't help people, it hurts. Yeah. And so I have to get up and I have to share the message and I have to show up. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, there's repercussions.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, thank you so much. This was so awesome to spend time with you this morning and see you in real life.
Thank you for allowing me to come out here. It's been amazing. I've never been in this hotel. And I mean, Houston's a big place, so there's a lot of hotels. Yeah, so this one's really cute.
It is really cute. It's really nice. We lucked out. And I really appreciate it. And we would definitely want to catch back up with you after you kind of get further on to your 1,000-hour career and doing all that. That's exciting.
Y'all should come and study with us.
I know. I would love to. I want to hear more about it for sure. Yeah. For sure.
I will be reading the website, I'm sure of it, as soon as it launches.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay.
So as you can tell, Adrienne and I had a lot of fun with that interview. We were laughing constantly. I love that. I love when a guest is able to make jokes and they land, and we make jokes and they land. It's just a nice back and forth.
It's pretty incredible to think about how yoga can be this thread that ties us all together in a way that's like so much deeper than just like, oh yeah, like I like nachos or, I like football. It's like, no, there's something about yoga that just ties us on a super deep personal level quick.
Right. Which obviously brought us to this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. It's the center of it. It's how we had this idea and brought it to life through this podcast of connecting with people and hearing their story. And I think our listeners have probably experienced this, where you hear someone's story, and even if they don't have the same life experience as you can relate to the impact yoga has had.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. And I mean, if going through lupus and having that kind of a serious illness and being able to keep it at bay because of her practice and because of the way that she looks at her body, the way that she looks at living a yogic lifestyle.
Yeah, which I think brings us to our kind of message for the episode, our sutra that we're looking at, which is Sutra 2.1. It's actually a sutra that we looked at before when we interviewed Ziki. Mm-hmm. So what's really cool, I think, about the sutras is they're, up for interpretation.
Yeah.
Adrienne and I have read the Yoga Sutras. We have different books that interpret the sutras. And then whenever we find a sutra or a sutra kind of calls to us for an episode, we tend to look it up even more and read blogs and Yoga International and Yoga Journal and all these different perspectives. And what's cool is they all have like a different take and a different interpretation. Mm-hmm. And I think you can see that from this episode to Zeke's. If you're interested, you can go back and listen and see how we looked at 2.1 then versus how we're about to look at it now. And so 2.1 says that yoga cannot be practiced passively. It requires commitment, focus, and self-discipline. And for me, it was that idea of it cannot be passive.
Right.
Alicia told us how ultimately yoga wasn't an option, right? Like it was that take as needed, and she needed it daily in terms of pain management, how embodiment was necessary in order to influence others, right? When we think about how her church community went from this is of the devil, like there's devil worshiping happening at yoga, to being willing and open to have her teach yoga and wellness and, this festival in their space. Mm-hmm. That's a huge transformation.
Huge.
And that came from her living and embodying yoga.
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting about Sutra 2.1 is it's really about the harmony of doing, reflecting, and being present, right? So you think about the doing as the tapas. That's that discipline. That's that practice, like take as needed, right? The medicine that you need to physically move energy in your body. The belief of self-study or svadhyaya is the willingness to stay open and curious, right? Not limiting ourselves, not listening to that kind of negative speak that we usually hear of like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, or I can't do, or I'm not going to be able to, or, all the limits that we put on ourselves. But if we really look at the willingness to be curious of where we can take ourselves instead of limiting where we can go.
Which she speaks about, right? Like this idea that the ability to learn in yoga is endless.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like we re-listened to the episode before we do this commentary, and I was thinking about how yoga is like this ultimate playground for those who love to learn, right? She's talked about how she has over 1,000 hours of just like teacher training.
Yep.
And I was like, that's so true. Like you can never stop learning. And we've talked about that before. And I feel that when I read books about yoga and when I have conversations about yoga and when I meet new teachers and learn new things from their perspectives, and it's just extremely exciting. There's no way to limit yourself.
Right.
Like, I mean, other than yourself, you can limit yourself, but there is no limit, and you can constantly learn and constantly explore and constantly grow, which is, where else can you do that?
I know. And the thing that I like the most about yoga for me over the past, I don't know, especially since I've been teaching, say 10 years, right? So in the beginning, it was like my way or the highway, right? That's what I tried to hold on to. And it quickly became, there is no your way of doing it. There is many ways. And your way, one day could work, another day it doesn't work. So you have to be willing to say the different lineages and the different areas of study that yoga can take us, just keep being curious and being open to it, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you sit back and you say, oh, I'll never be able to do this physical asana pose of, scorpion or whatever, you just set your brain up to limit it. So it'll never happen. But if you learn how to have the discipline to practice physically, but then also have the ability to be open and willing to try things and see, and then being present, being with the moment, right? I found this, the place you are looking for is also the place we are looking from. Right? So the place we're looking for is also the place we're looking from. It's perspective, right? And we can pull ourselves out of the perspective of limits and beliefs that hold us back. We can be open to more. And I think for me, Alicia's open, like she embraces her strengths, she embraces her weaknesses, and she's constantly growing. When she walks in, she's wearing red. She's got beautiful eyes. She's just got a presence about her. Like she's the kind of person, she walks in the door and you're like, who the hell is that? I want to meet her. I want to take her with me. I just really enjoyed the time with her, learning about it, and then just kind of tying it all back to why we all have this common bond, which is yoga. It's doing, it's being, and it's reflecting and being present. Cool. What else?
I was thinking about how after the episode, and I don't think we have this recorded, Adrienne and I were kind of just sharing where we're at in, you know, in our yoga journey and with our yoga teachings and our yoga offerings. And I wanted to say thank you to Alicia. Like she is not only inspiring, but like pushes you in a very productive way, right? So, you know, I think Adrienne was talking about her 300. And at that point, had it been approved?
It had been approved and we were looking for a space.
It had just been approved, looking for a space, still considering how to like market it and how to, like what angle to take it from. Because I think, and I can speak to this just from observing Adrienne, like Adrienne knew, but there was some hesitancy to name it, right? So Adrienne knew what she wanted to offer and what she wanted to bring to people, but she was like, well, I don't want to put myself in a box. And Alicia was like, give yourself a box, own your box, name your box, give your box to people, you know, and I think that was just such a cool perspective. And, so I think she also, you know, leadership, like she mentioned, is one of her spiritual gifts, and it's very, very clear. And I loved to see how that transpires with just daily interactions. Like even just that conversation we had after, it was very, very inspirational.
Well, you know what? My favorite part was after the interview, we had mentioned to the manager of the hotel that we were having someone who was a yogi come in, and she was like, oh, I've always wanted to try yoga. I was like, cool. Well, you can come and meet her while she's here. And after the interview, we found the manager and she came over and she spent like, what was it, 2 hours with us? Me, Alicia, and her were talking. You had to take a call. Me, I had to take a call. So, you know, the three of us sat there and talked all about life and crazy depths,
family, death, marriage,
everything. And it was such an incredible conversation to have. Three women didn't know each other from totally different backgrounds, were able to have this crazy deep moment together. And it just was funny because I said to Alicia afterwards, I said, does this happen to you a lot? Because it happens to me where people feel open enough to share. And she's like, oh yeah, totally. And I said, well, that's a good thing. I like that feeling. I like when people feel like they have a safe space in me to talk. Or I shouldn't say safe space, a open space to talk. Cool. Yeah. I just thought she did a great job with really putting herself out there. She's done so many wonderful things for the community of Houston with yoga and getting it out into areas that normally wouldn't even be exposed to it. And I do think that she really is yoga in action. So cool. You got anything else?
No, thank you all so much for listening. Next week, you will have a follow-up episode from us. And in the meantime, if you're interested in sharing your story with us, reach out. You can find us on Instagram. You can email us. All of that is linked in the show notes. And I think also if you're on Spotify, you can even drop a little message there. Let us know what you think of the episode. Leave a review. We are a small podcast moving into season 2. Leaving reviews and sharing this episode is the way that you can help us the most.
Yeah.
It's super, super helpful. So leave a review, share this episode with a friend, someone who you think of when you heard these words in this interview. And last but not least,
if you're in the San Antonio area and you're interested in advancing your teacher training knowledge or your teacher training experience, my friend Jenny, Nicole, and I are leading an advanced 300-hour yoga teacher training starting in March. It's a monthly module training that goes through December, and we're really excited. We're going to be at called Blue Heart Studio. It's located inside Moxie Hair Salon. It's a really cool hair salon off of 410. It's very, very easy to get to, great parking, great space. And we're looking forward to sharing yoga with more people. So you can go to my website, vibrantyogaleadership.com. You can check us out on the gram. I'm on Family Flow Yoga. And we also have some of it on we'll link it in the show notes. I guess. Link it in the show notes.
And this episode was brought to you by Vibrant Yoga Leadership.
Vibrant Yoga Leadership. Yes.
Okay.
All right, sweet. See you guys.
Bye, yogis.